Hello everyone. There are so many of you today. Today I want to talk about Ionic, but before I do, I have a couple of announcements. First, I have to tell you that this is my second meetup as a presenter ever. The first one was 1 week ago, so I'm still like a virgin, which is good at my age. And so I'm gonna count on you for two things. I'm gonna ask you two favors. The first one, at the end of the session, I'm gonna write some live coding to show you how you build an application using Ionic. But I want you to be my live human debugger. So when you see me do a typo or some mistake, just pop up your hand and fix it for me. The second thing is I have a very tight agenda. So if you have any question, I'm going to ask you to hold them until the end of the presentation, and hopefully I'll have time to answer them at the end. The last thing is that I'm starting a meetup of a new kind. It's called Russian Combat. So it's a form of self-defense sport, which is very interesting. The teacher that you're going to see, the big guy that you're going to see on the screen, is an expert in Karate Kyokushinkai. For those who know a little bit of karate, Karate Kyokushinkai is maybe the most effective form of karate. And he's been training in the Russian combat for the past 5 years. And it's really interesting because instead of being very aggressive, very rigid like you would do in Krav Maga, you have to be the opposite. You have to be like water, and you use the balance of your opponent and a lot of biomechanics of the body to get rid of him. So it's very interesting. We are training every Wednesday. So if you want to know more about this, get in touch with me. I will explain everything.
Finishing.
Okay, so my name is Avi. I've been an entrepreneur for the past 15 years, an entrepreneur / CTO. My first company was called Mediale. We developed a dashboard for monitoring the energy consumption in big buildings, and we built it with Sencha. So we used also, like 5 years ago, HTML5 technology to build the application. And the adventure was quite successful because 3 years ago we got acquired by one of the major big players in the green IT field called Schneider Electric. How many of you are working in a startup? Quite a few. Okay, so when you start a company, you have that crazy dream that maybe one day you'll find someone to buy a company, and then you start working on your day-to-day operation, and you start taking that dream and put it on the back of your dream of your head because it's not really helping you working. But there is one thing you never think about is that what are you going to do the day you're going to sell your company? And so the best thing to battle, the post-acquisition depression phase is to start again. And that's exactly what we did. Our new company is called Ubic. Our customer are brands that are looking to understand what are their marketing presence in physical stores. So instead of sending their own task force to check the store, they are using our mobile application where they publish mission, and then anyone in the crowd can register to a mission, book it, and just answer a few questions about how the product is doing in the physical store. So you see here a video of the application. We are using, if it's working, well, we'll see later. But we are using Ionic. We used Ionic to build the entire application, and we are really pleased with the framework and the ergonomy that we get from the framework. And we're also looking for developers. So if on your side you are looking for a new company, and you should talk to me. So when you want to build a mobile app, you have basically two choices. You can go the native road, and it's a valid choice. A lot of companies are still doing that, but then you have to develop at least 3 different versions of the product. And anytime you're going to maintain the application, you're going to have to fix a bug. You're going to have to do that 3 different times. So doing a hybrid application makes you reuse the exact same code, whatever device you're going to run, and that's really what seems like a logical approach. But then in 2012, Mark Zuckerberg from Facebook came out with this scary or bold statement saying that his company shouldn't have built on HTML5. And I remember when I read the statement, I was quite shocked about what he was telling. I had on my side not a mobile application, I had the standard web application, but I was very happy with the process and the workflow of doing that in HTML5. And so my first reaction was something like that. Do I have to buy an Objective-C book? And then the answer is no. So there is kind of controversy about what was really the message of Zuckerberg. But what I can say to you today that in 2014, the gap between native mobile development and hybrid development is rapidly closing. So framework like Ionic, but also like Famous, are helping us developers make a few steps in that direction. And so you should be confident that you could use them right away to write your own mobile application. If we look at the stack of a JavaScript framework, you have on the left column what I call the older frameworks. What they did is that they abstracted the DOM, the layer of the DOM, and you get out of the framework almost everything. So you had to compare with their way of building classes, you have to compare with their UI, but you would get out of the box pretty easily everything you need to work. But then with NPM and Bower, the new way of building your application is quite different today. You can cherry pick the framework or the library you want to use when you build your application. And so you have on the DOM layer, you still have jQuery, you can still use jQuery or not use jQuery. On what I call the architecture layer, the business logic of your application, you have framework like Angular, but also like Backbone and Ember that you can use. And if you look at the UI layer, well, you know Bootstrap, right? Ionic and Famous for me are like the Bootstrap for the mobile. Okay, so you're gonna find the same experience you have using Bootstrap, using these frameworks. And so it's built around technologies that you already know if you are a JavaScript developer: HTML5, CSS3, JavaScript. So I put here the nice icon. But if you work with the technology, sometimes it looks like that, right? And if you can remember how to write, just in Bootstrap, a simple responsive nav bar, what they did with Ionic is the combination with Angular. So we have, instead of very complex HTML element and decomposition to learn, we can use simple directives that we just drop in our page, and we get the result. They use also Sass intensively, and it's good because then you have complete control about the look and feel of the application. You get out of the box their own style, but you can almost change everything, starting from the color, the size of the box, the input box, etc. So it's very neat to be able to do that. They are really focused on performance, and they try to minimize the DOM manipulation to 0, and they don't use internally any jQuery stuff. They are really focused on building native app that will work with Cordova or PhoneGap, and they also included in their own CLI a wrapper around Cordova, so you don't have to learn everything about Cordova. You can get going with their own CLI pretty easily in a very short time. They also provide you with a lot of icons that are mobile, that have a mobile look and feel. But if you're not happy with them, you can always add another library like Fontosome. So if we start looking at the code, we have here an example of a very simple list. So you see the result on the left. It's like a native list you're all used to see in a native application. And you see that the code is very simple. It's just div with simple class for defining where is the list container and what are the item or the item divider. And you don't have to use, for that, any of JavaScript or Angular stuff. You just use the simple CSS declaration of Ionic to get a look and feel of a native application. But if you really want to get some power out of the framework, then you will have to use their own directive. So you see that the list we had in the previous slide can be enhanced when you use the ion list directive. And you can have a swipe action on the item of the list and present buttons that have action to delete or to reorder the list item. And it's really that code that you have to put in your web page to get what you see on the left. So it's really neat. You have tabs. So most of the applications today use tabs, like Facebook. And again, you define a container tabs directive, and inside the tab you define all your different icons and text and where you want the tab to look. It could be on the footer, it could be on the header. You decide how you want to organize your layout. So for the navigation now, when you are going to navigate from page to page, they are using internally UI router. You should also use UI router in your own application instead of the ng-root, the common basic ng-root from Angular. But they kind of wrap also the UI router with their own directive so that you can have history navigation between your page. And for example, on an Android phone, the view is smart enough to display a back button when it's possible. You have side menu, so menu that you can swipe in and out. Again, it's very simple. You have slide box, so when you start your application, you want to give your user a few hints about how they should use the application, what they should do. You put that in a slide box, they swipe, and the second time they enter in the application, you just pass the slide box presentation. It will just appear for the first users. You have action sheet, so you can, on a tab or on a longer tab, present a few action like you're used on an iPhone. And you have the pull to refresh. Okay, so the pull to refresh is a combination of a directive on one side that you put on your HTML, but on the second side, you are going also to use services from Ionic in order to tell the framework that the pull to refresh is completed. So you're gonna pipe the on refresh to an action on your scope, okay? And when you get the response from the web server of what you want to display, you're gonna call the Ionic service to tell I'm done. Just now hide the pull to refresh and represent the view as it should be with the refresh data. How do you get it started? So you have one way to use the Ionic CLI. So it does several things. It does it wraps some of the Cordova function, which is good. It's also a kind of a generator. You give it a start, a name of the application, and a template, and it will scaffold for you a starter kit application that you can use as a starting point. It's also a live reload or browser sync, whatever you want to call that, implementation. So you can, with the command Ionic serve, just launch your site and see the immediate effect while you're coding on your application. You could also use Bower, simple Bower package. You can use Ionic Creator. So Ionic Creator is still in beta. It's a website where you can design your application with a drag and drop workflow. You drop the component onto an iPhone frame, and you got kind of the HTML written for you, so you don't have to mess around with learning that. It's still in beta. I haven't played a lot with that, so I'm more into the HTML and using the directory right now. And you can use this Yeoman generator that I wrote. It's called Famous Angular Ionic. And this generator, actually, it's not the real name. It's Angular Famous Ionic. But it will scaffold for you, and we will see that in a minute, a whole application with gulp task, well organized, respecting the best practice of an Angular project, and it will take care of binding the dependency, whether you want to use an Ionic application, the Ionic framework, or the Famous framework. So, a lot of talk, a lot of blah blah. Let's do something with the framework. So, what we are going to do, we are going to build that. So this is a screenshot of the real Facebook mobile application. How much time we have? Okay, let's try to do that in 15 minutes. So let's get started. There is a question before? Yes? So what the question is Ionic only for mobile? Yes, the main focus of Ionic right now is mobile. Yeah?
You can build an application that is mobile and desktop?
No, it wouldn't feel right to have the same kind of a component for a desktop application and a mobile application. What you have to know from what Uri told us about the material component is that the same guy, Max Lynch, that is responsible for Ionic development, is also one of the main contributors of material design. So I think that I can see some overlapping between the two approach, but at the end of the day, material design want to be the UI framework from everything, like the mobile first, but not only, and they're gonna maybe merge together some of the components of some of the approach. Another question? Yeah.
What about mobile web?
Mobile web.
Yes, like using Ionic just for mobile inside the browser.
Yes. So we did that with one customer. So can we use Ionic for mobile web application without the Cordova stuff and getting access to all the device function? So we did that for one customer that didn't want their own employee to play with their phone and to get access to the application. So instead of that, we just distributed the application on Azure or Heroku, some sites where you can run the application inside a frame that display an iPhone in SVG, and then they can have the same experience as with using their iPhone into a simple web page.
Short one though. How do you, to have like an access to the Cordova native functions, you need a specific Cordova.js file for the specific device. How do you do that? Like for a sniffer, you check the user agent, how do you do that?
So it's more a Cordova question, but Cordova will help you package the application. And when the question is how you get access between different.
How did you said you had access to the native device functions from like an actual browser, not a web view. So I asked, how did you determine which? You have like a different Cordova.js for each device.
So okay, I'm gonna rephrase. So you said I said something about a web browser. It's a web view. So what Cordova is doing is that it's packaging your application inside a web view, and is building the native binary file that you can send to the App Store or the Google Store. That's it. So your application is running inside a web view, and in addition, you have plugins, and the plugins are device oriented, so they know on what device they run and what type of function they should run. And when you distribute your application, you say you have to build for me the distribution for iOS, you have to build for me the distribution for Android, and Cordova is smart enough to figure out what is the plugin they have to inject and how to talk to the plugin. But on your side of the development, you just talk to the Cordova interface, and you have exactly the same access whether you're on Android. And I'm going to stop you. I'm going to do the live coding, and then I'll come back to your question. Okay? So, what we are going to use here is, and I hope it will be successful, is a Codio. So Codio is an editor, an HTML5 editor running on a web page, but it's not only for editing the code, it's also a box. So you have here full access to a Linux box with a small terminal window. So this is what you get after you use the generator, the Angular famous Ionic generator. If we look a little bit at the project, you see here that you have two folders. What?
Bigger text.
Bigger text is going to be better?
Thank you.
So you see here you have a client folder. Okay? This is where we are going to build the application. In the script, for the moment, you just have a main.js file, and the generator is using internally Browserify to bundle together the file. If you don't know Browserify, it's really neat because not only it will help you bundle together your different HTML page, but also you will have access to the whole NPM list of packages that are usually written for the server, and you can reuse them into your web page. So not all the packages are going to work, but most of them, they are not server specific, and you can reuse Lodash, some of mathematical function, the encoding stuff, instead of looking for them or trying to rewrite them on your own. You can see here that I have a gulp command, and I can do just gulp help. And I will have a bunch of gulp tasks that I can use for my project, for running karma and unit tests, for running end-to-end tests, for running the changelog and automatic changelog when you're writing on your project, for linting your file, and we use 3 types of linter inside the generator. So it's already packaged, so you don't have to figure out how these things work, and you can get going pretty fast. So what we are going to do now, I'm going to come back to a smaller. What we're going to do now is to start scaffolding the application. So what we need here, we're going to need 2 modules. Okay? So we are going to scaffold a first module called ng Facebook. Okay? And we are going to scaffold a second module called common. The code here, if you know a little bit about Angular.js best practice, that you should build your application with feature first, and then if you need by types, but you shouldn't do by types like the official Angular generator is doing. So here you see now that inside script we have 2 folders, one common, one ng Facebook, representing our module. So we can switch them whenever we want, and we'll be able to reference the ng Facebook into the common module later on. In the Facebook module, we are just going to define a simple service called Facebook. Okay? And this service is going to give us access to the access token from Facebook and to the API of Facebook. And on the command side, we are going to use 2 controllers, one for the login view and one for getting access to my Facebook newsfeed. Okay, so while I'm typing this yo command, the code is incrementing. I see the new controller, I see the services, they are all packaged together. I can bundle them with one command. The last thing we're gonna scaffold is the actual HTML views. So okay, we're just going into the view folder, and with a simple touch command, we are creating a bunch of HTML pages that are for the moment completely empty, and we will fill them later on. Okay, so we have every file we need for the application. So 2 modules, 1 service, and 2 controllers. And what we can do here is run browser sync. So browser sync is going to create for us a live web server, and anytime we're going to change the file, we should see live the change in the browser. So if I open here, so you see that we are connected to Browserify. Just to check that, we're going to go into the index in HTML here, and just put here a small message. And we are seeing the result live. Okay, so we are going first to write the Facebook service. So there's a few hundred lines of code, but you're going to see that it's pretty simple what we are doing here, and it's not related to Ionic. So the only thing we're doing really here is have an Angular service that have an init function where we're gonna give it the app ID of the application. We have a login and a logout that are responsible for getting us the access token from Facebook. And if you look at the login function, the only thing that is really doing is redirecting ourselves to the hours page of Facebook and navigating back to the application where we're going to grab in the URL, in the query string, the access token delivered by Facebook. So nothing special here. Now that we have this service, we can go in our main module here. And what we are saying in our main module, in the run function, so the run function is like the entry point for the application. This is where we're going to be after that Angular has loaded and everything is ready. We're going to tell it, okay, this is how you initialize the Facebook service from the NJ Facebook module. And here, I want you to check the URL of the window. And if you see in the URL of the window an access token, just grab it, store it in the local storage, and then navigate for me to the newsfeed page. Now we're going to need a bit of style. So we go to the style. This is a Sass file. For the moment, we are just referencing the Sass file from Ionic and Fontosum. And we're just going to add a few of our style just to have the look and feel of Facebook. We have a few variables with the blue, the different kind of blue from Facebook. And you see that while I'm doing that, the browser sync is also compiling the style sheet into a Minify CSS. Okay, so now we're ready to define the roots of our application. So in the common module, we can come back in the common module. In the index, we have this root that was scaffolded for us by the generator. We can change it to this code. And this code is really defining the different route. We have on the top level the login route and the tab route. The tab route is an abstract route that is going to be populated by the sub-state of any screen that we want to display to the application. So we're going to navigate between the login route at the beginning and the tab route or the tab substates after the authentication phase. We can come back to the Facebook service, to the Facebook module, and here we don't need to define for that module any root, because it's just a state service. Okay, and we, in the index HTML, instead of using the UI root, the UI view tag, we're going to replace it with the equivalent of a Ionic, which is called an Ion Navi. Okay, so now we can write the code for the login controller, and you're going to see that the login controller is really simple. The only thing that the controller is doing is exposing a login function on the scope, and is calling the Facebook login service from the ng Facebook module. And if we want to see something, and a real login page should have at least a button, we have to change the login view here. And we're going to use, like I showed you in the beginning, some simple class coming from Ionic to get the result. So I'm going to restart. Okay, I didn't have to restart, but you already see that I have a login page with the look and feel of Facebook. It's very simple. I could have done that using another framework as Ionic, because I'm not doing anything special for the moment. Let's save that. Okay. So before we do an actual login, we will need to just have some HTML template for our remaining view. So the tab here is also same code as I showed you in the little snippet, just a tab container with several tab items in it, and we defined what text we want to see on the bottom bar of the tab and what icon we should see. And for each of the view, we're going to use, for the moment, a simple HTML template that I'm going to repeat for any other view. So this is going to be for message. It's just a simple header with the title in the header. So that was for message. This is for more. This is for newsfeed.
Avi is a super developer. Doesn't write code, just appears.
And this is notification. And this is going to be a request. Okay. So now we can come back to the login HTML and just on the login button put our ng-click calling the login function from the controller. Oh, so we have something. Okay, it's starting to look a bit like the famous application. You see I can navigate between the different tabs, and I have already a pretty solid look and feel for a native application. Now, the first thing we're going to do, so instead of doing, oh, nice. Instead of doing all the view with data, we are going to scaffold for the, what is it? This is the more view. A simple list. So here it's just static data. Okay, I'm using only the list class of Ionic, and you will see here that I have a bouncing view. Okay, with some bubble that I could bind to data or anything like that, but it's already looking like the Facebook application. But if we really want to have real data from Facebook, we will need to scaffold the the newsfeed controller. And the newsfeed controller is doing a simple thing. It is using an Ionic login service coming from Ionic to start showing, how do you call that? A spinning wheel or waiting wheel. Then is looking on the root scope if we have items already. So it's a very dummy implementation of some cache mechanism, so that we don't have any time we enter the view to get back again to the Facebook API. We just put the data here. And if there exists, we are going to populate two attributes from our view, the VM items and the VM friend. And if not, we're going to call the Facebook API, asking for the me home, which is the main newsfeed API. And here, what we are going to build is a list of friends from the post. So instead of having like another call to an external API to get the friend request, I'm just using the same post from my feed, extracting the different friend that posted something, and we are going to use that information to display that as if it was a friend request. So if we go now on the request page and change the dummy HTML with just the header that is the existing view with that. So we have a simple list, okay? We have item, we have inside an item an image, a title with a name and another P with an information, and two buttons next to it. If we navigate to request, we should see that. Thumbs up? Okay. Last piece of the puzzle, the newsfeed. So we're gonna start with just a small implementation of what should be the HTML template. So we come back to the newsfeed, replace the dummy template with this. Oh. Okay, and you see we have just put two header, simple HTML. Think of that as a bootstrap implementation. Two header, one with a search field, a second with a list of 3 buttons, and a gray background to give the kind of a color that Facebook is using. But what we really want to do is to put here a card item to display each of the posts. So the card HTML is very simple. It's just a card, what is called a card directive, and you start seeing the post. All right, so you have a fully functional Facebook application in 15 minutes. You can log in, you can see the post, you can navigate between the page, and you have the bouncing effect that you are regular to find in an application.
Did you send it to Mark?
No, not yet.
Hello.
So, to go back to the this is actually the real application, right? So in terms of look and feel, so you're still missing a few functions, right? But in terms of look and feel, you have something that is really close to the native implementation and that you can reuse on any device. So it's kind of a mind-blowing when you're starting to develop with that framework. So that's it. Any questions? Thank you.
Did you open source?
Yes, so the whole code is going to be on my GitHub. It's already on my GitHub. You have access to it, a little readme that explain you what you need to do to run it.
And also, what do you use like requirement content?
Okay, it's a long subject. Browserify I could speak a long time about Browserify. I'm coming from using required.js. It has a lot of advantage. It's really neat. It's not only for injecting simple JavaScript file. You can inject CSS. You can inject YAML file, and they will transform into JavaScript. You get access to the whole NPM package library. NPM organization just released today a post about what is their vision for managing client-side packages, because the philosophy is a little bit different than server-side packages for the dependencies. So I think we are going to a road where Bower and NPM will not be two separate tools, but integrated into the same tool for requiring your packages.
How does the Angular model system combine with?
Angular is already an NPM package, and most of the package you can find, any library you can find today, will exist if it's client-side, both on NPM and Bower, mostly.
But Avi, what about Famous?
Famous is good too. So what you're missing? So what you're missing from Ionic, I think, is you get some kind of animation between the view, the swipe, and the swipe card, the menu, the sliding menu, etc. But if you want to go over there and do some parallax image on the background, like in a Twitter-like application where you're sliding and react to the velocity of the user input, you're going to be stuck. They are working on adding an extra library called Collide to give that kind of ergonomy, but they are not here. They are not there yet. Famous is way more advanced when you want to get animation, but on the other side, Famous is lacking all the components, or the built-in component that you can use in Ionic, and they are ready to go for you. So they are not really in the same level, but I mean, the two initiatives are really interesting. You can combine them. I have even on my GitHub a small POC where I use inside the Ionic view some Famous surfaces that just react to the tap. So you can combine them and try to make the most out of the two frameworks. Yeah.
Do you have any surprises when you, let's say you are done with Ionic on Android and then you want to test on iOS?
No, it was really straightforward.
No,
No, it was really straightforward. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Avi. Thank you very much. I want to say that Avi has promised that he will do a Famous talk also. Yeah.